Because my whole life in fighting, I never had a plan B, because plan A had to work. That's the way I looked at fighting. I don't want a safety net. I'm gonna dive off of this, and we gotta make this work.
I had those couple decision points, like, do you want to take this seriously? And then after I did, it'd be like, this kind of sucks. Like, do you really want to take it seriously?
Yeah.
No, I'm doing that, but it's not for everybody.
And I see, like you're talking about jumping in and realizing, man, this is actually work. I'm gonna have to really put in a lot of work to get good at this. Yeah. I see that a lot with young guys, like when they start doing jiu-jitsu or start boxing, there's like a honeymoon phase. It might be the first 2 months, and then that kind of wears off, and they're like, nah, if you want to get good at this, you have to like be under pressure all the time, and that's how you get better, for sure.
Who knows the homie Dustin Poirier? What do you know about him?
He is number 2 lightweight in the world. He's done some amazing stuff. Great hot sauce, by the way, I've tried it.
Oh, man.
And I've done some triple work in my home country of Uganda. So,
Yes, sir.
Sweet.
Thank you.
So you got all sorts of lists of, I got to read this shit because there's so much. I got pulled up his Wikipedias. I know you're interim champ.
Yep, 2019, I beat Max Holloway for the interim world title.
He had fight of the night so many times, and
Maybe 11 or 13.
it's something silly.
Yeah.
I got to look it up. It's something silly. He don't even know. It's so many, he lost count. He stopped counting it. Performance of the night, bonus of the night, numerous times. My buddy Paulie Malignaggi don't mind that he beat Conor McGregor a couple times too. Not once, twice.
Twice.
So I got to pull this up because it's ridiculous, but I got it right here. So we got interim champ. We got fight of the night 8 times. Submission of the night once. Performance of the night 4 times. Forrest Griffin Community Award for some charitable stuff, I presume.
Yeah.
Some charitable stuff. I don't know much about that. Tied for 5th most wins in UFC history. Tied for most knockouts in lightweight division history. Tied for 6 post-fight night bonuses. So 6th most fight night bonuses in UFC history.
I think I'm top 5 most significant strikes thrown in UFC history, too.
You got to update your Wikipedia, homie.
Yeah, man. Me and the legend Frank Yeager, a couple people up there.
Frank Yeager's a great guy. Man, you had a lot of fights. How'd you get into that to begin with?
I actually started boxing before mixed martial arts. I thought I wanted to be a boxer when I was a young kid. And met some guys who were boxing at a gym in Louisiana. That's where I'm from. And when I started talking to them, this was right around the time, like when Ultimate Fighter was, I don't know how big of MMA fans you are, but this is like IFL was in its prime. When they had the teams way back then. This is like the first season of the Ultimate Fighter was just getting on Spike TV or whatever it was on. And MMA was really taking off. It's been around a while, but at that point it was slowly becoming mainstream. And I went to this boxing gym and started talking to these guys. And they were like, yeah, we're working on our boxing for mixed martial arts. And I was like, wait a second. You guys train mixed martial arts in Lafayette, Louisiana? And then the next weekend, I was at that MMA gym. Yeah, and from there, it's just been a snowball. Started doing jiu-jitsu and kickboxing there, doing a bunch of jiu-jitsu tournaments when I was younger. Took my first fight, and then just haven't looked back.
How long did it take you to get your black belt?
I got my black belt in 2012. First time I've ever been on the mat in a gi was probably 2007.
Oh, 5 years.
2006, yeah.
So you're taking that very seriously at the time.
Yeah, but like, I don't know how the landscape is with like schools, jiu-jitsu schools nowadays. Back then, like you had to put your time in, you had to compete. They weren't like paying for belts and handing out belts. Now that MMA's become more mainstream, there's so many jiu-jitsu gyms and so many, sensei, so many masters doing it and handing out belts. But back then you had to like really work for it, especially under the Carlson Gracie banner.
I got my blue belt. I'll have a purple belt in a couple months under Jake Shields. I heard he was pretty good.
Oh, Jake Shields is
okay.
American Jiu-Jitsu.
But you also got great boxing skills, and obviously the whole repertoire. But so boxing and jiu-jitsu were kind of the first things, the first loves.
Yeah, I fell in love with boxing before I even ever put a pair of boxing gloves on. Just like watching the guys on TV as a young kid, I knew whatever they were displaying, like the grit, determination, the will to push through pain and just keep showing up at round after round. Something drew me to that, and I knew I had that. I mean, I hoped I had it. Every young man probably thinks when they see two guys fight on TV, they're like, I have that in me. But watching them bleed and come back and win these fights, I was inspired, and I was like, I have that. Whatever that is, that dog they have in them, I have that now. And I went to a boxing gym.
So you came up through MMA. You had an amazing reputation in that area, but you also did a lot of things in philanthropy. You're also a business owner, so you're a lot more broad-based. Some people have the stereotype of you're some fighter guy, and I don't know where that comes from because most of the fighters that I know that are high-level performers like yourself tend to be very intelligent people. But what got you interested in some of those other things of the business endeavors or endorsements and running your own business and some of the philanthropic things that you're up to?
Yeah, I just putting myself in positions and being around people like yourself, like mentors I've had when I was younger in the fight game and in the business world, like asking questions and just being around that. I never finished ninth grade. I got everything the hard way, learned the hard way. Went to the school of hard knocks, and that's how I learned everything in business, taking chances, asking questions, making mistakes, trying not to make those same mistakes again. And yeah, now I have a hot sauce. It's the official hot sauce of the UFC. We just launched in Walmart, 1,400 stores. And it's growing. I have I'm a partner in a seltzer water called Hop Water. I have a bourbon that we make out in Kentucky. I have a few things, Me and my wife just bought a wine market in Louisiana. So I'm doing a little bit of everything, and you can't fight forever. And as I get older, I'm 34 years old. As I get older, I still feel like I have a lot of fight in me, but I know that door is going to be there, and I don't want to be scrambling what's next when I get there. I want to try my best to make a plan and plan ahead. Because my whole life in fighting, I never had a plan B because plan A had to work. That's the way I looked at fighting. I don't want a safety net. I'm going to dive off of this and we're going to go. We got to make this work. And now as you get older, I have kids. I've been married 14 years. I want to set things up that'll be there.
I've been waiting for my case of hot sauce to show up so I can give you a shout out on Instagram.
Give me the address. I got you. We got 3 hot sauces now. And
bro, I already sent you the address. Check your DMs. I already sent you the address. I seen you sent somebody else that's way less cool than me had a case of your hot sauce, and I'm like, I guess I should have texted you directly instead of DMs, but I'm like, hey, send me a case of that, and I'll give you a shout out.
I don't remember seeing the DM, but if you text me, I got you. Give me the address.
Back to the phone. Back to the phone. Back to the phone this moment.
I got you.
I need my hot sauce. I hear it's good.
Yeah, the original's really good. The OG is really good. We just came out with Creole maple, using a little bit of maple syrup in there. We put a Creole blend of seasonings in there. That's a little bit more spicy. And then we have the KO edition, which we use ghost peppers that we get grown out in North Carolina. And it'll blow your doors off.
Look, this is your account, right?
Yes, that is me.
Where the hell's my hot sauce?
But it doesn't say red. I don't think I even read it.
Check your damn DMs. That's what I said. That's what I said.
So I got the address.
What? You got 4.2 million followers?
Slapping Connor around will do that.
Let's go to questions early. What are some things that you folks that would be useful to hear from him and I?
Derek, first of all, thank you for bringing Dustin and also giving us the possibility to ask some questions. I think it's always fascinating to see guys like you together and, like the overlap between being a businessman and also a UFC fighter, and also how many UFC fighters are actually interested in business. And I think, at least from what I can observe, it seems like UFC fighters who turn into business are much more successful than other people in other kind of sports trying businesses after they finish their career. And Also, you talked a lot of times about like there's not only one thing in business that you need to know to become a successful businessman or investor, like real estate, knowing about the markets and entrepreneurship, and also in the UFC, you can't just go to a boxing gym, I suppose, to be a professional UFC fighter. So I guess this is more like a technical question. I'm myself more interested, of course, in business currently, but I also know that I want to do some sports like in fighting. Obviously not to become a professional fighter, but to be so fit to protect myself, or being able to protect myself and my friends. For example, if I'm on the streets and somebody for whatever reason tries to attack me or my family or whomever, what would you recommend to a total amateur, basically what kind of sports he should begin with to actually, get these skills in the fastest way possible?
It was easy. When I wanted to do that, I just found like I literally looked at the UFC roster of like current people. Two things I looked at. I looked at the former champions. There's like a chart there's only 90 or so champions ever. I think it's less than 100. And then I looked at the current UFC, like top 15 in the different weight divisions. And then I just contacted those people and told them to come train with me. Just do that. I only started training in November 2001. It was like 16 months ago.
Very high level, though.
Yeah, man.
Very high level. Jumped right into the deep end with the best guys in the world.
I talked about this yesterday, and it's not necessarily flattering, but I talked about this yesterday, that it sucked so much. I was 300 pounds. I was like fat, like 300 pounds, 31% fat. I wasn't fat because I was lazy. I was fat because I worked so much on business stuff that I don't have to do another thing for the rest of my damn life if I don't want to. But they closed the gyms in 2020. They made it very hard to exercise, and there was a lot of opportunity. So I didn't sleep right. I ate too much, and I got fat. So I wasn't always fat. I got very fat during that time. So I had to fix that, and I thought, I'm not going to be on a treadmill. I'm that type of guy who's going to be on a treadmill or something, or doing some cardio, or like I got to do something that seems purposeful, or that's like tough, purposeful, goal-oriented. And I was always interested in fighting, and I'm like, well, if you're not going to learn about that in your 40s, like, would it be better in my 50s? Should I wait till I'm dead? When would be a better time,
Right.
So, yeah, I took that pretty seriously, and I asked Jake to come train with me, and I asked Paulie to come train with me, and I realized that, spending, 7 days a month is not going to get you the skill set that you want, that
No.
it has to be a lot more intense. So then I asked Tito and Chandler and some other people to come train with me, and then that spiraled into a whole lot of people. So now it's about 20 days a month, and in that process, about 3-4 months in, I had to make a couple of decisions, and none of this is something that you'd be impressed with. That you spent your life doing this, and you did a lot of tough things that are not even goals of mine. So. I'm not trying to tell a competitive story in any way, but just my version of it. I had a couple of decision points where I'm like, well, you're either going to spend a lot more time on this if you want to get good at it, or you might as well not do much because, 6-7 days a month is not sufficient to develop a real skill set. Then after I started spending a lot more time and had a lot more, intense training, then, I'm in my 40s, so like you wake up in the middle of the night. You're a tough guy during the day, but you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like,
Yeah.
or you just like roll over in bed and
Yeah.
it wakes you up because something hurts. So you're probably familiar with that feeling.
Very much.
Yeah. So then I thought, like, what the are you doing? Like, why are you doing this to yourself? And you had to just make a decision, like, am I really going to do this in a serious way, or just stop and fuck off, right? And after I did that, then I was just like, all right, that's what we're doing. And it just became so ingrained in my lifestyle now that I think it's like normal to like train 18, 20, 22 days a month, and like 3-4 hours at a time, sometimes 5 hours.
Yeah.
And some of that's just positional training, and some of that's hard rolls and moving around aggressively or getting smacked a little bit. But I had those couple decision points, like, do you want to take this seriously? And then after I did, it'd be like, this kind of sucks. Like, do you really want to take it seriously?
Yeah.
And then, now I'm doing that, but something constantly hurts. I have some little ailment or soreness somewhere always.
Yeah.
And it's not for everybody.
And I see, like you're talking about jumping in and realizing, man, this is actually work. I'm gonna have to really put in a lot of work to get good at this.
Yeah.
I see that a lot with young guys, like when they start doing jiu-jitsu or start boxing, there's like a honeymoon phase. It might be the first 2 months, and then that kind of wears off, and they're like less and less. I see them at the gym. Now, if you want to get good at this, you have to like be under pressure all the time, and that's how you get better for sure. Every month you get tapped out one time less, you know, and then over a few years you're tapping guys and learning other martial arts and putting it all together. But for his question, I think jiu-jitsu is a great base. For self-defense, yeah, it's a great base, and you're a student forever. Once you start doing something like jiu-jitsu, there's so many variables and so many ways to do things. It's like a lifelong journey, like Derek's saying. It doesn't stop. You're always a student.
Mr. Gerard?
You're done a lot of work in philanthropy. Derek, claims to not do that, but he does it actually a lot. Doesn't like to show it off. I was wondering if you talk about what your internal motivation, for that is. Is that something that your passion for that? I mean, what you've accomplished has allowed you to be more of a philanthropist. Do both of you use that at all for your internal motivation to be better and to perhaps expand into other opportunities like business or?
I'll let him take that first.
The work I've done with my foundation, with my charity, me and my wife were doing things in the community before I had a nonprofit. We were just doing it out of my name, and that's what made me start a nonprofit and give it its own name, the Good Fight Foundation, and let it kind of grow organically. But this was just an opportunity. I realized I had a platform where people were listening, and a police officer, this was the first thing we've ever done. A police officer got killed in the line of duty in the hometown where we're from, in Lafayette, Louisiana. Left behind a wife and kids, and I was in the process of moving back to Louisiana from South Florida, and I had drawers filled with fight-worn memorabilia, bloody shorts, bloody gloves from the WEC, things like that. And you get a couple of those, and it means a lot. I didn't want to let them go, but then you get 30, 40 fights like I have now, and I just have drawers filled from these crazy fights. And I just saw an opportunity when we were loading the U-Haul. I said, hey, let's put this on eBay, and whatever we raise, let's donate it to this police officer's family. And then that kind of sparked it. So it was never like something I planned to do. It's just in the moment. I'm just thankful I realized I had a platform and where I was at in life and decided to do that. And then the first few things we did, it was in the news and newspaper. Dustin Poirier donates this. Dustin Poirier does that. And I was like, that's cool, but that's not why I'm doing it. So we started the foundation, gave it its own name, and tried to get other fighters behind it and let it kind of grow organically. And that's what it's done. Since then, since 2018, when I fought Justin Gaethje, every fight I've donated everything I wore to the octagon. And we're going to continue to do it. Since then, other fighters have also donated their gloves. When I fought Max Holloway, he donated his gloves. When I fought Khabib Nurmagomedov, he donated his shirt. And that's what sparked the big funding for the water wells and buying the Pygmy people the land in Uganda. Then Manny Pacquiao jumped on board, and now we're building housing there. But this is all from Justin Wren, Fight for the Forgotten. That's his goal, is to help the Pygmy people in Uganda. And I just called him while I was in training camp one time, and that's what it took off from there.
I didn't put those pieces together, but I know Justin. He trains with Danaher down at.
He's a big boy too, yeah.
Big guy. We were playing the joke that you and I were just talking about. I was doing that with him down with Danaher's gym and messing around with that show.
He's a high-level fighter too, man. I don't think he's competed in a while. He's just getting over malaria again, but he's a very high-level fighter.
Nice guy. I like him.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had that association, but good dude. Small world. I'll answer your question too, but small world, the little things like that I know the guy that he's talking about with this other with his charity, and didn't have those pieces put together. But there's small world. That's all. I'm not anti-philanthropy, but a lot of people that talk about philanthropy are just full of shit. And what they really mean is marketing. It's a marketing campaign of some kind. And he's not that type of person. That's not who he is. But that's what a lot of so-called philanthropic groups really are. And I'm not going to say the name of the place, but there's a group that I was invited to for years that most of what's happening in there is business between business people and politicians, but they need to have some cover for that because it's not publicly feasible to say things that bluntly. So then they would start bringing all these philanthropic groups in. And then on the public marketing or in the aftermath and the PR statements that are paid for, by the way, in the PR statements that would go out later, they'd say that these business people and these politicians, they'd frame it for the politicians to get more politicians to come there, so the business people could pay for access to the politicians, And so they'd say that, all these politicians came to this event and we raised $2 million for this and this charity. We raised, $1 million point something for this and that charity. And I've seen the behind the scenes working and how a lot of that stuff, happens in real life. And I kind of make fun of it for that reason. Now, what he's doing is legit, and it's a totally separate thing. That's something that's, from his heart that he cares about and likes to help people. And it's a different thing. But, a lot of what you hear is that are charitable organizations or 503c or whatever. There's a lot of people use that for tax avoidance. A lot of people use that for other reasons versus what they say publicly. So when you hear me make fun of some charitable things, that's mostly what I have in mind in that context. That a lot of people that cry the loudest about what their altruism are full of shit, and they're some of the most non-altruistic people that are have tangential goals or other primary goals. I've donated to. I was the biggest donor to my school for my last two schools. For college, I was the biggest donor to University of Chicago for the whole time that I was there. I continued donating to the school after I left. Until they start doing this crazy politically correct shit that became popular in recent years. So until they started doing that, I continued to donate to the school years after I was there. I cut that off afterwards. But I never made a marketing campaign about that. I never felt the need to make a marketing campaign. And there's several other things I donated to this thing or that thing, but I didn't need to make it a marketing campaign. Know the difference between those type of things. Am I a totally altruistic person doing that? No. Did I get some perks behind the scenes for doing things like that? Of course I did. Was that part of my motivation for doing it? Absolutely. Absolutely. Would I have done it otherwise? I don't know. I'm not sure. Would I do that in the future to get, to meet certain people or have certain opportunities that might not otherwise come my way? Of course I would. I'm a smart investor. Of course I would. So would I do it just from my heart with nothing expected in return? Yeah, sometime I will. But just know the difference between those type of things, and the people that talk the loudest about how philanthropic they are and how much they care about others are mostly full of shit. And somebody that does that from their heart doesn't have to talk about it excessively.